Hello, my name is Matthew Jessner, White Tiger Qigong instructor. Today's video, Unleash the Hidden Warrior Within, Strengthen Your Body with Qigong. Qigong, cultivating and harmonizing vital energy, offers a multitude of benefits for combat sports athletes, as well as an entire range of movement practices motivated by energy, consciousness, and physical development. The goal here is to provide combat sports practitioners with a deeper understanding of Qigong principles and techniques to optimize performance, enhance mental focus, and accelerate recovery. Combat is not fighting. It is a refinement often practiced within a code or vocabulary. That code being the rules and regulations. They all have a code of regulations and conduct, yet also the conduct and relationship with the teacher, Shifu or Sensei, and the opponent with whom we craft our skill. This opponent must be treated with the utmost respect and is not an attacker. This is incredibly important to remember, even if the stakes at hand, the skin in the game, can be quite real. Throughout this approach, we will explore the fundamental concepts of Qigong and its direct application to combat sports, training, and competition. We will delve into a range of exercises, breathing techniques, and meditative applications specifically tailored to support the unique physical and mental demands of combat sports. Welcome back. I'm going to go into 6 very short chapters. Each one of these could be an entire lesson, if you will, but I'm going to just brush upon 6 basic ideas. Number 1, the concept of Qi. Qigong is the crafting of Qi, which is life force, energy, and vitality. We have in Qigong the 3 treasures. Jing, which is the essence, Qi, energy and vitality, Shen, which is the spirit. And as a result and a guide in all of that is the intent, Yi. Very important to understand and never lose sight of Yi. Physiologically, the Jing would be viewed in a lower area, very globally, like a large cauldron, very, very deep and heavy and very, very substantial. The middle area, the thoracic chamber, like a chamber, very open, lots of windows and lots of doors, all kinds of things happening in this Qi area, the spirit, like a cupola. And they have this contained relationship that allow us to emit energy and receive energy, just like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems that interact and create a stasis. Now, the stasis of Qi is very important. In the middle of that stasis, we make many choices, and that is where the Yi, the intent, comes in. All right, I would like to go very, very quickly to one idea, which is groundedness, polarity, North Pole, South Pole, good. There's a lot more beyond gravity than just us. But this whole idea of gravity, very important. And gravity is a very good thing. Gravity is not only with us standing, gravity is also us in all kinds of positions where we're holding on to our axial stability. And if you're doing capoeira, up and down don't mean much anymore. So the idea of groundedness, understanding gravity, so it's not just in the feet, okay? Very important. I'm going to continue very rapidly, unfortunately. One of the main guides to everything that we do in Qigong is the breathing. Breathing is not just to relax, and it's also not just to bring oxygen in the body to use as gasoline for muscular movement. So I'm going to try with you one breathing exercise, which is incredibly important. So you'll hear about abdominal breathing or reverse breathing, which are energetic applications of breathing, but the breathing mechanism is the respiratory diaphragm moving up and down, and then all the other associated physiological parts getting out of the way, basically, in a very rudimentary sense. And I don't mean to be reductive about breathing sciences. So let's just take the moment and just let some air just enter in our body, enter. And then inhale to the very top without strain and just hover there. Don't hold the throat, just keep it nice and open, hovering there. Relax your body and now take more air. Relax there. Relax the body and take more air. Relax there, hover more, hover, relax, take more, hover, and then just release. Not exhale, just release. Breathe once nice and natural in this nice, easy place. Nice, easy. Take a nice, moderate inhale, and now we're going to empty the body entirely, empty. Without crunching, don't crunch, empty, all the way empty. Stay empty, stay still down there. Relax the body, empty more. relax the body, and empty more. Allow the air back in. That space in between active inhalation and active expulsion is immensely important. It's the neutrality that allows you to use the breathing as an instrument. I could go on for a very long time, but this is immensely important. Dynamic neutrality in breathing is the same thing you're going to use in many other parts. Now, from the idea of kinetic chains, which are sequences as if we're throwing a dart. So if I'm going to throw a dart, yes, the last part of that is releasing the dart from my fingertips, with the wrist maybe, and a more quick dynamic. But my yi is on the target. My yi is also inside. So it actually is coming from the foot throwing the dart. If you're going to throw a javelin, it's a different story entirely. It's the same idea, but if you throw with the arm first and then with the foot, you've got nothing. So it's going to start with the foot, through the hips, through the spine, and uncoiling, and then releasing the javelin. Okay? So the sequence of that and the dynamic in that is immensely important, and to know if you're expulsing or if you're releasing. This distinction of expulsion and drawing is immensely important in Qigong, and we use it very consciously. Strength and endurance. Very important to be endurant without being resisting. We're not resisting, we're developing. Very important to develop. Mabu. Okay, I'm using my flexibility to open my hips. I'm using my stability within my body in all kinds of different places, but I'm not holding on to it. What it is I'm using the energies coming from my feet, coiling around my tibia, coming in here, this rolling up and back, rolling into the gut, down again. So I'm gathering and sitting. I'm not just squatting and holding on to my quads. All this and engaging the dantian, engaging the Mingmen, which is the force. So all the strength of the forward force is coming from and the breath is so important to be able to hold on to this. So the dynamic endurance that you have is something you cultivate. Use the word cultivate in my intent. What am I doing here? I'm not just sitting here because someone told me to wait for 4 minutes, and I won't stay 4 minutes, although I could. Wait for 4 minutes. Oh, 4 minutes of Mabu every day. What does that mean? Where's the intent? Use your yi every single time, and then you will develop and not just endure. Strength and endurance. Very important. Let's try something really boring. Push-ups. My knuckles, these two knuckles in one line with my forearm. Okay? I'm not actually on my wrist in some sort of funny way. It's really quite aligned. If you were the floor, which you're not, you would see this. You wouldn't see this. And the reason I'm talking about that is the breathing. So let's go into just a basic push-up position. Gonna go down almost all the way and stay there for a second and rise on an exhale. Typical. And push, exhale. Everyone does that. Now you're gonna lift down. Don't sink, lift. Lift down, lift. And now we're gonna relax down there. We're gonna inhale on the way up. Inhale. Fill. And then go down into the mid space and stay there. And just move in the mid space. And come up on an inhale. And then go down a little bit mid space again. Oscillate. And then come up on an exhale. And if you do that, you'll be able to sense when you're using your inhale to fill and when you're using the exhale to push. Very important to dissociate the expulsion with every single time we make a muscular effort. Two things, because physiologically it's much better for your heart. And secondly, when you're actually in a combat situation, if you have your dynamic neutrality, remember that, I'm not going to be telling you as my opponent what I'm doing. So you're not going to see me go here and then go. You're going to be able to do that, and when you cultivate that yourself, not only will you be able to have more choices, but you'll be able to read what's happening with someone else. Also, the movement impetus. So when I know that a movement impetus, like my javelin, is wrong, I'm never going to, but if I'm seeing someone sink back, it's a strong possibility that one of two things are happening. Either I'm going to follow that person, or they're coming for me. They might go for different directions and all the rest, but try to read the impetus, and the more neutral you are, the more you can focus on what they're doing and be more available yourself to make either one of those choices, because you're not stuck with either inhaling or exhaling or very basic movement patterns. Mental focus and concentration. Concentration, concentric, eccentric. So being eccentric doesn't necessarily have to do with your hairstyle, being away from the center, which doesn't mean lost, away from a center. So concentric, eccentric. And again, on this binary thinking, yin, yang, they're not black and white. It's this unity which is composed of both. So this idea of concentration and eccentric is very, very important in terms of our hearing, our proprioception, our integrated proprioception, and our vision. So just even in terms of focus, I'm focusing in front, and then I open my focus out, and I'm having a super focus. I'm not going into nowhere land. Very important to be able to use the perceptive sphere. So the vision of the eyeball is ocular. It's the eyesight, the iris, and all those other mechanical bits. But the perception is in the brain. The neurological effect of working on our eyesight has a very beneficial effect on the brain and our awareness, as does the hearing and all the other senses. And super senses beyond that. So the mental focus and concentration, we practice them in meditation. Very often, meditation is not shutting down. Concentration is not excluding everything else. It's a question, again, of choice and yi. Talk about injury prevention and recovery. Preventing injuries and recovering from injuries or any excess of any kind could be pathological as well. Usually a result of, in terms of physicality, a result of either incorrect technique or sometimes stuff happens. I use that in a polite way. But there's also a question, the quality of our prevention and the quality of our recovery has everything to do with the stasis that you're in all the time. If you take really good care of yourself without being precious about it, you will realize that you can adventure a great deal into a lot of risky situations, knowing that your technique is good enough, that your instrument is ready for it, and that you know how, in terms of your nutrition and the other things you do to recover. It's incredible what we can take on. It's unbelievable what we can take on if we're ready for it. And that doesn't mean to be tough, biting the bullet. The robustness is much deeper than just being resistant. So resisting doesn't have a good result. So develop your strength, develop your yi, develop your flexibility, develop all these things, and develop your knowledge so that when you're coming back from an injury and you're noticing that you're not on kilter, or if you're noticing that you're weaker on one side, one word of personal advice: if you have something that you need to rehabilitate, don't use your Qigong practice as a rehabilitation. It is the practice, and it's very pure. If you need to do gaining more strength and deltoids from an injury, all your Pilates stuff, go do that. When you come back into your practice, don't do something out of balance to use your Qigong practice as a way of rehab. No, it is the practice. Do all the other extraneous stuff to get back into the practice. So the way you live your life, the way that you condition yourself are immensely important to your injury prevention and your discovery. If you say, well, I did something dumb. Well, you said it all. Energy management and emotional control. Control is not restriction, it's understanding the yi. Remember my friend yi? Jing, qi, shen, yi. Always got my head on that yi. The intent. Anger in a combat situation is inappropriate. Even anger in a fight situation or a conflict is not necessarily the best solution either. But you can't remove the fact that it exists. We need to make sure of what our intent. It is not a good motor. It is not a good motor, and it's an inappropriate motor in martial arts. So I used to win every sparring match I was ever in. I won every one of them. Not because I was better, because I was actually wrong. Someone would be coming at me with a certain code of conduct in jiu-jitsu or in Shotokan or whatever, and I usually would win because they'd get me in a position of vulnerability and I'd knock them out. But I didn't knock them out of any kind of dignity or intelligence or even skill. I would cross over into animal reflexes, and my sensei would always reprimand me, said, you didn't win. You didn't win anything. As a matter of fact, you lost. He's lying on the ground and you're the one that lost. So I take that on and I offer that to all of us, that the warrior within doesn't mean becoming a badass. We're not out there to become badass. The warrior is an honorific term, and I want you to try to do your absolute best to make sure that your yi remains in a place that is honorific. Integrating Qigong into training. Qigong principles. Let's talk about Qigong movements or Qigong principles. So if we know that we're working with our breathing, as I've mentioned, in terms of using the breathing as a gauge, as an instrument, even when I'm in a gym training, doing a bench press, and I'm sometimes using all of those different sources of energy to vehicle through my yi, using my breath to motivate the impetus of the movement. Number one, I have a hell of a lot more strength than I would normally have. Just physiologically, I almost never hurt myself. And in addition to which, the principles are allowing me, rather than sort of hanging on and pulling down all the rest of it, I'm integrating into my body and using, filling the Ming Men, if I'm filling the Mingmen, all of a sudden, it's almost like rock climbing. There's no time for extraneous movements in rock climbing. It's a very direct, economical, and ergonomical practice. And so the Qigong principles allow that to happen, the flexibility. It's that kind of a decision thing. When you're going up the north face, they don't improvise much, you know? And so it's really important to have a knowledge and to understand ergonomically where you're going with that. Those Qigong principles are really there. And if you're also dealing with fear, again, rock climbing, if you're really afraid and you're trembling, that's probably not a good thing. So I can imagine the Qigong for rock climbers might be a really good thing. I'm not going to necessarily go up there and demonstrate that, but I think that there must be a stasis that one gets into whereby the fear and energy component and the longevity and the idea is probably capital. And in that situation, it's not just a question of success, it's a question of life and death. So knowing that, you can bring Qigong principles into many practices. That doesn't mean mishing everything up like some sort of goulash. It's really important to understand the distinction grammatically between the German language and the Italian language. My very old analogy, Mozart, Wolfgang, wrote a lot of music for opera in German, and he wrote a lot of music in Italian. And they were very different writing. They were different pieces, but he wrote differently. He would write different for the German language than we write for the Italian language because they're completely different in terms of the way that they sing. So we always want to do these odd fusions, taking your knowledge and transposing it into something else as a global bank of knowledge. Yes. Mixing everything up so that nothing has any identity anymore, it doesn't make any sense. So let us be judicious about how we use the Qigong principles in many other iterations rather than making some sort of odd goulash. So I would highly recommend that we stand for just a moment in Mabu, the mother of all stances, and feel the earth and feel your breathing. Use your hearing. Don't defocus, use a super focus and go into Tingjing. Tingjing is a listening state, and you can sense things internal, things external, your intent, your breathing, all of these things, and just be there. It is a stasis. Your stasis will be the basis. It'll be a new t-shirt. Your stasis is the basis. But it really is important. So craft a stasis of Jing, of Qi, of Shun, and above all, your Yi, your intent. Thank you. Hopefully, this introduction will serve as a foundation of Qigong principles and practical tools to support your combat sports journey, or merely to expand your capabilities. A comprehensive Qigong practice will enhance your physical performance, mental resilience, and physical and moral robustness. Here, we take the united complementary of yin-yang to another level of physical application. The principles remain from the same source, yet the degree to which we stretch them is continuously challenging. It is important to use the meditative aspects to augment the perceptive capacities and to counter the adrenal and fear components, as well as any form of aggression. Qigong is a martial art and not any form of secret weapon. We must accept that there will be an element of discomfort or even pain, yet never inflict it intentionally. Your opponent is also responsible to manage their own balance and risk. You've heard it before. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a battlefield. The term warrior is a term of honor and not of relative prowess or danger. Remember that, always. Thank you.